and go to our good friend, the Democratic delegate from Fairfax. He's also the chairman of the Democratic Caucus, Scott Surovell. Delegate, great to have you on again.
Great to be on your show again, John.
Okay, we've been in session now. We're ending our first week. Unfortunately, this whole Joe Morrissey thing has commanded everybody's dialogue, for better or for worse. I'm going to play you a clip on it. We're going to get that off the table and then go on from there. Here we go.
So I turned the other cheek and I resigned.
Tense emotions carry across party lines and can be felt in the State House.
Celibacy is a very viable option at this point to keep him out of trouble. And had he been pursuing that course, he wouldn't be in this trouble.
Colleagues ignored Morrissey on the House floor on his first day back. He was stripped of any committee assignments and was forced to give up his old office.
There's a wide variety of options, from doing nothing to censure to expulsion.
As fellow lawmakers contemplate Morrissey's future in the State House, the delegate is prepared to face any outcome.
I can't control other people's behavior, and if they want to take a vote that disenfranchises the 53,000 voters in my district, then they should do what they think they need to do.
Morrissey embarking on a new legislative year with a defiant confidence. Emily Roseman, The Associated Press.
Okay, Delegate Surovell, why not just move on?
Well, John, I mean, the conduct that Delegate Morrissey was convicted of, he didn't plead guilty to it. He pleaded an altered plea, but he was convicted of is pretty reprehensible stuff. It involved sex with a 17-year-old, allegedly. Mm-hmm. And additionally, he's serving active jail time while trying to be a legislator. He sleeps in the jail at night and he comes here during the day. Mm-hmm. And most of us feel like that is conduct that is not appropriate for a sitting active legislator. And I think that censure is a probability. Expulsion, I think, becomes less likely every day, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think a lot of us feel like, we need to make a statement about this, and you're probably going to see that happen, is my guess, sometime next week. But then I think that's going to be the end of it, and, hopefully everybody will move on, although I know there's another pending criminal investigation. There appears to be another pending criminal investigation going on, and it's not clear if there's another shoe that's going to drop in that one either.
Without a doubt, it's a mess. Let's get to the issues in hand, which is the people's business in Virginia. Your second in command, Democrat in the House. What's your agenda in getting some really meaningful things done?
Well, first of all, I think, notwithstanding the fact that jobs and the economy has been on everybody's mind since I was elected about 6 years ago, I think it's still on everybody's mind. Mm-hmm. Virginia's economy has still kind of flatlined, especially compared to the rest of the United States, and mainly because of the sequester and the federal cutbacks in federal spending. And Virginia's economy is simply just too dependent on the federal government. And when the federal government has finally started to tighten its belt, it's starting to hurt us. It hurt us more than the rest of the country. And so, creating jobs, bringing in investment, investing in people and infrastructure, is number one in our priority. Our educational system is just getting killed right now. We spend less on secondary education per pupil today than we did in 2007. And, that's our school systems just can't survive like that. Our children can't get the education they need for the future for us to be competitive when we spend money like that. We got to protect higher education. I couldn't believe it the other night, but not a single member on the other side stood up when the governor said he wanted to protect higher education funding. I was just dumbfounded. Our governor has just gone out and been bringing in capital investment and jobs like nobody's business. I mean,
right.
He's brought in double the investment of in his first year of any governor that's preceded him. Mm-hmm. And Terry's skills at working with the business community to bring in investment is just kind of unparalleled. And,
legendary.
He went over the other night at his State of the Commonwealth address, and it's really an impressive track record so far.
When you mention education, you really hit on something, because it's kind of like 2013 transportation. Even as a conservative, we knew we had to do something to fix the travel infrastructure in Virginia. Now, those of us with kids in school, we can feel it. It's just something is not right. We've got to get more funding, but nobody wants to see a tax increase, so how do we make it happen?
Well, John, the thing I like to point about is expanding Medicaid brings in a couple $1 billion a year, and according to every analysis that's been done, saves taxpayers about $100 to $180 million per biennium. And so one of the best things we could do to actually free up some money in our budget is expand Medicaid. But after that, you and I have talked about this before, there are all kinds of tax preferences on the books that we need to look at. We still have this yacht tax credit. We still have a tax credit for coal, which a lot of people question. I mean, it's been questioned by JLARC as to whether or not it's effective. We have probably about 20, 30, 40 tax credits and preferences that we've had a committee for 2 years that's supposed to be looking at doing something about these to identify savings for taxpayers and whether they're being effective, and the committee hasn't done anything. But I think if we really did a careful look at our budget, we could find all kinds of stuff to free up money even for people that don't support a tax increase. But nobody's doing that. Just about every tax credit that's on the books has some special interest that wants to protect it, and it's a battle every time you even want to just free up $2, $3, $4 million.
Well, why wouldn't you be able to galvanize conservatives in the House to get rid of some of this corporate welfare?
John, I don't know. I really scratched my head about it. It's been interesting because I've put in probably 3 or 4 bills over the last 5 years where I've actually had support of folks in the Tea Party, and for some reason it doesn't seem to get any traction. For example, I had a bill that required if you claim a tax credit, that your name and the credit and the amount of the credit be public, right? Because most tax credits are dollar for dollar, and if the government writes somebody a check, you get to find that out. You get to see their name, what the check was, and how much it was for, and what it went for. The tax credit, it's all secret, and so you can't look at it to see whether the tax credit we put on the books is going to the people and for the purposes for which you enacted it. And so it's almost impossible to evaluate these things. And I think if we had better transparency, we'd begin to be able to go after this. And I've had actually very conservative support in Virginia, but for some reason, some of these things just don't seem to get traction. And we have to start doing something about this. If everybody's going to take this line that we could never raise taxes, then we have to take a serious look at the other side. And I just kind of, instead of just having political battles about Medicaid, there are things we can do, but there just never seems to be any traction to do it.
Well, it's our job in the media to help get these out because, as you said, I mean, you were very candid, Delegate Surovell. We appreciate that. And the reason why these things never see the light of day is because, the lobbyists ramp up. They put the machine on. They go lobby people. They throw a lot of money around. I don't mean in the gift area, nothing to do with ethics. They give to campaigns all the time, and so they go nowhere. And I think this is the kind of the iron triangle that we have to break in Virginia, because if you're a limited government conservative like me and you're concerned about fiscal issues and you look at the corporate welfare that goes on in Virginia, I mean, it's obscene. And as you pointed out, which even more outrageous is when somebody like yourself tries to make it transparent, that gets quashed and really makes you wonder about why we can't get a lot of these things done, Scott.
Yeah, no, I agree, John, but I've been fighting at it for 5 years now, and every year I like to think I get a little better at it, and I'm starting to figure it out, but it's hard. It's hard to break through, and it's hard to you have to find allies, and once you find allies, then you can start making movement. But it's Richmond is there's a lot of powerful interest down here.
Speaking of taxes and education, Delegate Rob Krupka from Alexandria just proposed a $500 million tax on tobacco, raising the cigarette tax, I don't know, about 700%, taxing everything: tobacco, cigars, tobacco that you roll, tobacco that you spit out. He wants to tax the spit. But he says, hey, it'll bring $500 million to schools. And he says it's in line with what the other states are putting taxes on tobacco. What say you?
Yeah, I didn't realize he had done that, but the tobacco tax is something that comes up repeatedly. Our cigarette tax is one of the lowest taxes in the United States of America, and obviously Altria is here. It's one of the last places that we still manufacture cigarettes in the United States. But on the other hand, it's a product which is known to cause all kinds of health problems, and it's not something we really, I think, want to be encouraging. And just a lot of people end up taking Virginia cigarettes and taking them up north where taxes are higher and selling them on the black market. I think the guy who was killed by the New York police officer, I think that's what he was alleged to be doing, was selling cigarettes, and they probably came from Virginia.
Yes.
And so we've had to spend a lot of actual we've had to spend a lot of law enforcement money trying to deal with cigarette sale fraud. I mean, people taking our cigarettes and shipping them up north. I mean, they're going up there in 18-wheelers full of them, like we used to send guns to New York years ago. It's
right.
And that's what happens when you set things this low. But I mean, $500 we're just leaving on the table. That I don't really think it would. I don't think it would be as traumatic as people think. Not nearly as many people smoke as they used to, and I think it's something we ought to seriously consider.
Well, I quit cold turkey last August in the parking lot of the Chesapeake Radio Shack. I stamped my last cigarette out, so it's not going to affect me any. Scott, I got about a minute and a half. You're second in command in the House under Minority Leader David Toscano, the Paisano. How is your relationship with David? How is that thing working?
Well, we've been going at it for about 3 months right now, and we're just getting started this session. But we're having fun. We had our second day on the floor, I guess, yesterday, and we have our session planned out. Our memo about what we're going to do for the session got leaked to the Richmond Times-Dispatch, so everybody got to see what we're going to do. But it's David is a thoughtful and careful minority leader, and I'm a guy that likes to fight. I think we're a good balance, and I think it's going to be a real fun session.
Now, what about that memo where basically you got the memo alluded to the fact that you wanted to create all kinds of diversions and wedge issues leading up to the 2015 campaign? How does that get anything done?
Well, John, I think there's a lot of sort of internal contradictions that a lot of people, I think, don't realize. And I think sometimes there seems to be this assumption that for some reason that I scratch my head about a lot, that the Democratic Party is not a business-friendly party. The other side has created all kinds of problems for creating jobs and growing things and growing jobs in the economy in Virginia. We had a huge fight on Medicaid. Business community supported that. We had a huge fight on transportation. The business
Scott, we're out of time. We're gonna pick up on this conversation next week.